Streaming. So how do you like
We're
that?
streaming. All right.
We are. We are. So did we find
Oh
ourselves?
yeah, I see it. I see it. Wow, they're listening to us and everything. Okay, I see it.
Yeah.
I see it. Let me
Cool.
turn down the volume. Okay, I see it. So now I'll be able to see if anyone writes questions also.
Yes, absolutely. And then I have another way that I'll be directing questions as well. Welcome everybody. As you can see, Victor and I are just chatting, getting oriented to our beautiful system here for our Ask Me Anything session. My name is Dr. Shamini Jain, and I am the founder and CEO of the Consciousness and Healing Initiative, which is a nonprofit collaborative accelerator to lead humanity to heal ourselves. For those of you who are new to us, welcome. So glad that you've joined us today. And our nonprofit is known to forward the science and practice of healing, and a lot of what we explore is the biofield. Critical to our conversation is understanding the wisdom and perspective of artists. And while we generally bring a lot of healing practitioners who do things like energy work, energy healing, subtle energy healing, technology, science to the conversation, we've been really thrilled to have opportunities to bring stellar musicians and artists to the conversation so they can share their wisdom as well. And on that note, I just want to give a very, very warm welcome. We're so honored to have with us five-time Grammy winning bass maestro, hailed as one of the greatest bassists of all time by Rolling Stone magazine and so many others. I can't say enough amazing things about this soul, Victor Wooten. Thank you so much, Victor, for joining us for this Ask Me Anything session.
I am honored, Shamini. Thank you so much for having me here with you.
Thank you. So, for those of you who are joining us here on Zoom, I want to point out there are a couple of ways that you can ask Victor your question. You'll see on your Zoom menu on the bottom something that says Q&A, and you can type in your question. Don't be shy. This is a tremendous opportunity to connect with such a maestro of music in many ways, and he'll be sharing with us his perspectives and his new book called The Spirit of Music, which has just come out this month. So you can ask your questions that way. And Victor's also got his eye on our Facebook live stream in case you end up joining us on Facebook Live and you want to ask your questions there directly. We'll try to get to those as well. Well, Victor, those who are joining us know what a legend, living legend you already are. And you can say a light bearer in a way of music. And many of us have read your first book, The Music Lesson, which came out, I think you said about 12 years ago, which was just life changing for me, as a person and as a singer. It was really, it's one of my favorite books. And,
Thank you.
it's, I know, been a little bit of a gap between the first book and the second one, although I understand that you've been holding the second one in your heart and mind for some time.
Very
And
true.
it's called The Spirit of Music, and you make some really provocative statements about where we are and where music is, and how it's time for us to save her. And I'm wondering if you want to share your perspective a little bit on that.
Sure, sure. I appreciate all the kind things that you said about me, and I want to start, speaking to you as well as everyone out there, is to realize that we can't recognize what we aren't. Meaning, if I recognize you as a genius, that means I'm a genius, right? If I recognize that the world is troubled, that means I'm troubled, right? We see from the inside. So if I'm if I've got a camera and all my pictures come out dirty and grainy, it wouldn't make sense for me to keep cleaning the subject that I'm taking pictures of. I might just need to clean my camera lens. And all of a sudden, my pictures come out looking better. Life is like that. It's so easy to blame the things that we're seeing, but we can only see what we are. So when people, give me these compliments, to me, it just tells me a lot about you.
Hmm.
And so I appreciate it. But if people give me a lot of criticism, it's still telling me about them. So I appreciate that also, because then it lets me know where I might need to do some work or help. Maybe I can help. But either way, I thank you for that. Back to your question. Yes, music is around. Music is not going anywhere. I look at music like nature. It's not going anywhere, right? We're not going to win that battle to try to get rid of nature. Now it is changing. I believe it is hurting. I believe music is the same way. We're not receiving music in its entirety these days. Now we have access to more music, right? But is it the same music that we used to have access to? The short story is this: if we look at listening to live music as a foot, 12 inches, listening to vinyl maybe is 8 inches, listening to a CD, waveforms might be 6 inches. An MP3 is only a tenth the size of a waveform. So now we're down to a half an inch, zero point 0.6 inches. Put that 0.6 inches through tiny headphones or computer speakers, we may be down to a quarter of an inch. That same music that we're listening to at a quarter of an inch these days is pitch corrected, time corrected, squashed, no dynamics. So we're down even further. So yeah, there's a lot of music, but is it really reaching us? It's sort of like saying, yeah, there's a lot of food, but it's all just fast food without the same amount of nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, music, more, having music is better than none at all. But this uh, decline in, for lack of a better word, quality that's reaching us has happened so fast in our lifetime. And my kids are growing up thinking this is normal.
Yeah.
So the question that's asked, Shamini, the question that I ask in the very first chapter is like a human body that may get an illness such as cancer. The whole body doesn't have to have cancer for the whole body to die. You just have to have enough cancer in one part of your body. So how much of music has to get sick before all of music dies? Now I treat this whole thing as a fictional story just to keep it light. But I try to ask more questions than I do make comments. I'm sorry, than to make statements. I try to ask a lot of questions, but I think it's a good question to ask
Yeah.
because we're in a different place these days.
I feel that, as I've been reading The Spirit of Music, I see that you're creating a story in a way for us to really reflect on our relationship with music. And as you know, sometimes people have these arbitrary distinctions that we might make. You mentioned early in our conversation, whatever we see in others, we have in ourselves, whether we see it or not. And I haven't met anyone who's not moved by music, right? Whether they consider themselves a musician or a singer, or they sing around the house, or they dance, or whatever. But sometimes in society we've created these artificial distinctions where we might not see ourselves as artists, or we might even feel like if we're not professional level. I can't tell you, Victor, how many people I've met in our collaborative, who are card carrying academics, scientists, doctors, whatever, and then as we have a conversation, they're like, oh yeah, I play music at home. Oh, how long have you been playing? Oh, I've been playing for 20 years. So, you end up finding out that music, is touching all of us, and we all have our own relationship with her. And
Right.
you describe her, as a being, and as you know, in many cultures we do. In the Hindu
Right.
culture, for example, we talk about the goddess Saraswati, who is the goddess of knowledge and wisdom. And she holds both the art and sciences because there is no distinction, right? They're both pathways towards understanding truth. And yet, in our normal society, we almost have relegated music to either it's for professionals or it's for entertainment, or something like that. And so I'm wondering
Yeah.
what wisdom you can share with us. This is really important because you're saying as everything is sort of evolving, there are pieces that we have to recognize are in kind of a declining there's a declining destructive force that, is here. It's here.
Sure. Yeah, and and again, in the book, I like to raise it as questions just to keep it light. I put it in a fable or a fictional story just to keep it light. Like you can go watch Star Wars and they're telling the truth. May the force be with you, right? Just change the word force for whatever, and it's a powerful statement. But it's Yoda, so we take it lightly. So I wanted a book like that. For one, I don't have to defend it, and people will just take the information, let it come in like a song, right? The music will do itself, like taking a vitamin. I don't have to take a vitamin and then focus on it. Vitamin does what it does. And I realize that truth is the same. Just get it in there. Just get it out there. It'll do what it's supposed to do. But the thing with music is that we all have, like you said, we all have a relationship with music where we may think we have to be a musician to have a deeper relationship with music, and you don't. In many cases, if not most cases, Shamini, when people learn music, they lose the connection because now music is about an instrument. Where music, I've got a bass guitar right here. You don't hear it. It doesn't make any music. I make music,
I
right?
love that. Yeah, so true.
I mean, it's no more than your mouth does the talking, right? You talk. I don't want to hear your mouth. I don't, and I don't say, hey, what language do you speak? Oh, I speak mouth, right? I don't name the instrument. So music, you the people, the most musical people I've ever met don't play an instrument,
Mm.
but they feel music deeply. And you can't think of hardly any major event in our lives that does not include music from birth to death. We get married. We have our first song, our first dance. There's music as we come down the aisle. We graduate. There's a graduation song. There's a birthday song. There's songs are everywhere. So we all have that relationship with, right? So no, you don't have to play music. And the hardest thing is once you start to play music is to keep that natural connection you were born with and being able to express that through an instrument.
I love it.
Where more musicians than not, they stop right at the instrument. And you see us when we play, our attention is here, is everything is here. I'm playing with a group of people, but my attention's here. But when we talk to each other, we look at each other, right? So a lot of musicians miss it, you know? And my hope with these books is to bring that back, not just to musicians, but to everybody, that connection. Because I believe we have the possibility of strengthening the connection once we're conscious of it.
Yeah, it's
And
such
again, I
a
got to say it clear, we have the possibility of strengthening it.
we have the possibility. It's so interesting because our first question that came from one of our chief contributors, thank you so much, is very connected to what you're saying here, Victor. And this person asks, so how do the connections you make when you're playing your music translate to connecting with others? And in their question, they say outside of music, right? So
Sure.
maybe we don't perceive it as an inside outside. And I know you and I have had some conversations about this, with respect to, for example, the biofield and the way it sort of plays a role in this connection that you're talking about with
Yes.
music and sharing that.
Sure. Um, Whether you are conscious of any of this stuff that we're about to talk about, doesn't matter. You're making a connection anyway. The same way, if we take away music and say, when you're talking, how do you use your words to affect other people? Then it's easy. I know how to make you laugh. I know how to make you angry. I know how to, make you question, make you remember with words. The same can be done, and the same is done with music, right? But I want to get really good at it. And when I started really thinking about music as a language, which is one of the main things that I teach, music as a language, just to make it easier for everyone. We all communicate.
Mhm.
I want to communicate with music. I started really asking myself questions. Okay, well, if I say, hey, Shamini, and if you're the only Shamini in the room, you're the only one that's going to turn and say, what? Can I do the same musically? The answer is yes.
Mm.
I've learned how to do it. I'm not the only one, but I've learned how to do it. Anyone that comes to my camp, especially the camp called the Spirit of Music, the students do it. And some of my best friends are people that I met musically from the stage by calling their name musically. And I can explain it. I can explain one way that's simple. It sounds like magic at first, but like a magic trick, once you know the answer, you go, that's not hard, you know? So music is powerful. It does the exact same thing as a language, but maybe some things it does better, because in music, you don't have to understand the language to receive the message.
This is so important. You know, it kind of relates to a question that someone is asking about the language of music and the grammar, you can say, in a way, of music. And this person asks, with only so many notes and scales to play, how can there be so many songs, arrangements, and styles of music?
There's only 26 letters in the English alphabet. How do we get so many words?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's not just about the word. It's not just about the note, right? If somebody walked into anybody's house right now and said fire, you'd look at them like, what are you talking about? They say fire. Okay, the word is right. But if there's a fire in your house, it's more than just the word I need to hear.
Mm.
You need to make me feel that word. So in language, we understand that the tone, the dynamics, the volume, the intensity, all of that can change what the word means.
Mm-hmm.
Music is all about that. The tone, the feeling, the rhythm, the articulation, the technique that I use to play the note or say the word, the space around the word, of course, the volume, and all of that stuff will change how those 12 notes are felt, right? So I can play the same note 100 different ways, and that note is going to feel different, even though it might be the same pitch.
And it's really fun to actually experiment with this at home, you know, if you want.
Sure.
People can do that. I mean, you can even just sing a note, right? And explore what Victor's saying. And for those of you who haven't read his first book, The Music Lesson, he really breaks down a lot of the ways that we can experience music, whether as a
Right.
listener or a player or a singer, or however we experience it collectively, individually. And it's so beautiful. Thank you for that. You
Thank
know,
you. The
speaking of,
music lesson, I'm sorry, Shamini. The music lesson is the every chapter, and in the book, in these books, I call them measures rather than chapters, just to keep with the musical theme. But every measure of that book is based on one of what I call my 10 elements of music. So there's a chapter on notes, but there's also a chapter on tone and a chapter on rhythm and a chapter on space or listening. But every chapter, every measure is written quite differently. So when we talk about notes, it may not be the same way if you think of those 12 notes, because the 12 notes are broader than just 12 letters, 12 notes. The same way each letter of the alphabet is broader than just a shape we write on the page or something that we say. So, I just wanted to be able to introduce people, not introduce, it's more remind people, because we know this. We just hadn't thought about the broadness of what music has to offer as it pertains to our lives, not just our instruments.
I love it because in that book, as well as this one, you know, you help us make the links to things that we may have even thought of as being different, like the relationship between rhythm and pitch, and you know, and in such a beautiful way. It's super mind opening. Now you spoke about
Yeah.
intensity, and
Yes.
speaking of intensity, we have a couple of questions here from Tom and Andy and probably others, which is, what do you recommend for folks who feel that intensity for themselves in when they're performing, in terms of experiencing things like stage fright, right?
Sure.
So, you know, some of these folks are saying, you know, I'm fine when I'm playing at home. I can do things in front of a crowd. I can even sing in front of a crowd. But for example, if I play my banjo in front of everyone, all of a sudden I'm making mistakes, and you know, I feel like I'm playing more poorly. So, do you have any advice for folks who are experiencing this?
Absolutely. One thing is that if they're there to hear you, they love you. That's why they're there. The people who don't like you aren't there. So, like a football team who has cheerleaders, the team is never afraid of the cheerleaders, right? They never tell the cheerleaders to be quiet, because the cheerleaders only wish the best for the football team. The cheerleaders will only say things that are good about the football team, even if they're losing. So if you have an audience, they're your cheerleaders. They're not sitting out there hating you. And you want proof? The proof is that they're there. So we are thinking that the audience is thinking something they're not really thinking, right? We're thinking that they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So here's one way to help combat that. Having stage fright and being nervous, the first thing is that we're nervous because we want to succeed. It's something that I want to do. If mom says go clean your room, you don't get nervous because you don't want to do it. But we really want to do it. So that same adrenaline, that same fluid that causes you to be nervous also causes you to have excitement.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing, but we latch on to, for lack of a better word, the negative part of it, the part that is not beneficial to us. So here's something to try. You want to take the attention off of you, because here's the truth of the matter. Your concert is not about you, right? You have developed a gift at home. I've developed this gift. Now it's time for me to present this gift to you. So my concerts are about you. I've been working on this gift, this song for so long, years. Now tonight I get to give it to you.
So
Giving gifts is so fun,
and giving the gift of
right?
music is beautiful. Yeah, I just wanted to share, Victor, as a, as a performer, I've had the exact same experience, and what has helped me is just um, people ask me sometimes, do you get nervous when you get on stage? And I think when you approach it as you're here to be faithful to the music, to connect with music, and to be that channel. And I do have fun. I like to kind of see who's frowning in the room and see if I can have them smiling by the first song. And
Sure.
and I'm
Yeah.
not trying to force it or anything, but I might just direct some energy their way. I might
Yes.
dedicate my song internally to this person who's obviously holding some tension or not really sure whether they're going to enjoy themselves or whatever. And my job as a performer is for them to enjoy the music. That's why I'm there, so that
Yeah.
I get that joy of just connecting in and sharing that out. And so once it really clicks that this has nothing to do with us. It really has to do with that sharing experience, right? It's completely transformative. It's so much fun for everyone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it doesn't mean you won't ever get nervous, but being nervous can become enjoyable
Yes.
because you know where it's coming from. It's coming from my love of this. I want to do this, you know?
Yeah.
And so if we give that gift to people and take the attention off of me and what they think of me, turn it around. Not what they think of me. What do you think of them?
Mm-hmm. Great.
What do you think of your audience? Play that rather than restricting my output because I'm so afraid of what they might think of me if I mess up. Well, here's the thing. You're going to mess up for the rest of your lives. Just get good at it. Seriously, get good at it. Life isn't always about getting it right. Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to go to the circus and see the guy on the high wire or the girl on the high wire walk straight across.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no fun in that. You want to see them wobble and almost fall. You don't want to see them fall, but you want to see them struggle a little because I relate to that struggle. I know that I'm not perfect. So when I see that you're not either, but you succeeded anyway, that gives me confidence. But if I don't see you even go for it, it takes my confidence away because I may not have the 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 power to go for it. So you can be the example for everyone. The other thing too, and I'll end this question with this: we think we're on stage by ourselves. And that's why I wanted to introduce people to the concept of music as a friend, as a real entity. You're not by yourself. Music is there to help you. So as Darth Vader and Yoda say, may the force be with you, may music be with you. Music is with you. But just like a close friend who you don't no longer listen to, they won't remain your close friend. So if music realizes you don't listen to me anymore, music doesn't always show up,
Mm.
right? But it's not music's fault, it's us cutting her off. But when we welcome music in, we realize I'm not by myself, right? So those are two approaches. Invite music in on stage with you to help. And instead of me against the audience, what the audiences think of me, show them what you think of them. Give them a gift. And that's always fun, giving gifts.
I love it. It's so beautiful. And speaking of music as a being, Mark is asking if you could talk more about the connection between nature and music.
Sure. When you see a young, I don't know if Mark has kids or whatever, but I'm guessing that Mark is very musical to even ask this question. And I believe that Mark is connected with nature. People don't ask questions that they don't really already have the answer to, because they're asking, they're attached to it. So that question tells me a lot about Mark. But the thing is this: when you find somebody that's good at anything, say you want to teach your kid basketball and they get the ball and they just happen to throw it up and they just make a shot. Wow. Or your kid just gets on the piano and starts figuring out melodies on the piano. You say, "Wow, you're a natural." That's the word we use. You're a natural. Well, what does natural mean? It means to be like nature. And when we're so much like nature, they call us nature, right? Nature's not out there trying. An oak tree's not trying to be an oak tree. An oak tree's definitely not trying to be a pine tree, right? A bird is not singing to win a Grammy. They're just doing what they are, right? Well, we consider humans at the top of this food chain, but we're the most unnatural people, entities, because we don't claim our naturalness. We think we have to be something else. But when we recognize it in someone, we say, "You're like nature. You're a natural." So I look up the word natural in the dictionary and it says to be like nature, having the characteristics of nature. But the dictionary in the next sentence, it says natural means without sharps and without flats. Right? We can have a C sharp, a C flat, or a C natural. So even the dictionary makes the connection between music and nature. All
So
we have to do is make that same connection, and we will play much better music. And music is about life. Music is not about music.
so interesting, your perspective there. And when I think about music and nature, it kind of reminds me, from the background that I come into. um, we speak about sound and its connections with nature, and of course music is then created with that connection with nature. And so in the Sanskrit language, for example, and some of the seed mantras that we use, the vibratory sounds are very connected with earth elements, right? Whether they're water, air, fire, whatever. And whether you subscribe to that particular model or not, certainly I think connecting with those forces of nature when you're playing, singing, like you were saying earlier, right? You can feel that in your body, you can hear that in your playing. So if you want to say, I'm going to be like water, I'm going to channel water in this work that I'm doing right now, where I'm in a channel fire, you have that experience of it through your body, and it comes out in the music as well.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and you don't have to ascribe to it or believe in it for it to be true. So all we're talking about is vibrations. Okay, in the Western world, we tune to A440. And what that means is if something vibrates 440 times in a second, it's going to produce a certain pitch at a certain octave. We've all agreed to call that A. But think about this, everyone. Cut 440 in half, you get 220. That's the pitch A, an octave lower. Cut it in a half, 110, octave lower. Keep going. 55, 27 and a half, whatever, whatever. Now you can't hear the pitch. You hear it as this. Now that same pitch has slowed down enough to where my ear can't hear it as a pitch. I need a metronome to register that vibration. Keep cutting it in half. Now I need a clock, a watch to measure. Keep cutting it in half. Now I need a calendar to measure it. Same vibration. Speed it up. It looks like a color. Speed it up more. It's infrared. So what we're talking about is different vibrational speeds of the same stuff.
Speaking
It's
of that,
yes.
someone had a question of how you tune your bass and whether you tune to 440 or 432. Wondering
I
if you
I I tune to 440. I tune to 440 or else I can't play with people.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? Why would I tune to 432 and everyone else is at 440? Then I'm wrong. I tune in a way that's going to fit with everyone else. It doesn't make like there's a whole thing about 432, tuning A to 432, which is a slightly slower vibration than the current standard. There is something to it. Does it mean that music is better? I don't know about that. But do the numbers 432, when you get and look at those numbers, like at 432, C is a 256, and things like that, those numbers line up with the universe in a miraculous way, right? I talk about this quite a bit in the spirit of music. And I'm not that smart. I get this information from my brothers. Like multiply 432 times 432. It'll shock you what that number is, right? Multiply 432 times 216, which is half of 432. It'll shock you, right? If you look in Wikipedia right now, it'll tell you that the average heart beats 72 beats per minute, right? Add that up to 72 beats. How many is that in an hour? How many is that in a day? Right? It's 864,000 beats in 24 hours, right? 864, cut that in half, it's 432,000 beats in half a day. We're back to these same numbers. These numbers keep showing up all over the place. And so there's a whole argument, conspiracy thing about it. And for me, I'm just saying, hey, look, just play music. If it's good music, we'll feel it, But there is something to this whole 432 thing. It shows up in Bibles. If you look up these numbers, and I only put one verse in the Bible that comes with 512, which is 256, C doubled. And my brother takes these numbers that he finds in music and starts looking up those verses in the Bible. And in every case, they're talking about music.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's so
Powerful stuff. Shamini, one last thing. My brother Roy, known as Future Man, he's crazy. Well, all my brothers are crazy, but crazy in the best sense of the word, right? I like to say if the world is run by normal people, I like crazy people. Right? But my brother Roy took the whole periodic table, all these elements that I was supposed to had learned in school that I totally forgot, magnesium, iron, all these. He took their frequencies, found out what frequency they vibrate at, elevated it or diminished it until we could hear the pitch of that vibration. And then he wrote a symphony based on
wow. I bet it's beautiful. I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
We would probably not say it's beautiful because our ears are attuned to only 12 pitches.
Yeah, true.
So I forget how many elements there are, but everyone's a slightly different pitch. So it sounds like a really out of tune piece of music,
Oh, wow.
which our Western ears not used to.
Wow.
But that's just to show that everything can be music.
Everything can, and we see, of course, the different pitches and different cultures, and the way that the tonality and the emotion comes across differently, as we've discussed before, and the different modes that exist all over the world. Everything has its purpose, and music has been used as medicine for so long, right? And that for
Yeah,
thousands.
in other cultures, yeah, in other cultures, it's totally used as medicine,
Mhm.
and we use music here in different ways that are unrecognized by the masses. In other words, if you go to a gas station right now, if they're playing music at the gas station, here's your guarantee: it will sound horrible. And that's on purpose. You'll be out there pumping gas, and this the music's good, but this coming through these speakers is horrible. Pay attention to it. That's on purpose. They don't want you to hang around at the gas station. They want you to get your gas and get out of there.
Mhm.
But then go to the shopping mall, a hotel. If they're playing music, it's pleasant because they want you to hang around all day and spend money.
Mm.
Even our government, I can't remember who it was our government was after. It might have been Noriega or someone like that quite a few years ago. They knew where this guy was. He was locked up in this compound, with bunches of firearms. So we couldn't safely just go in and get him. And I don't even know why we wanted this guy anyway. But the way they got him out was they got big speakers and they aimed, from what I remember hearing, is some kind of rock or heavy metal at him for about 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
This is not made up. You can find this. They aimed it at his compound for about 2 weeks, I think. Horrible sound, just too loud, too harsh, right? Facing execution, facing at least life imprisonment, this man surrendered.
Wow.
Surrendered. So at this point, we used music as a weapon,
Yeah, that's wild.
right? Music's powerful. But I've spoken to people that show me how they use music in space, right? You can go online right now and see how music affects liquid and
Hmm.
it forms shapes, right? And our body's mostly liquid, so of course it's affecting our whole body, not just our ears. But I was told that in space, if they want to hold a liquid in place, they'll just aim speakers at it
Wow, that's amazing.
because there's no gravity.
Yeah, I'd not
They'll
heard.
aim speakers at it, and they can make the music, they can make the shape move or go wherever they want. Powerful stuff.
It's really powerful. And we have some questions, Brandy is asking, and I think a couple of people would love to know, where can we learn more about, these the magic of these numbers, the numerology and musical ties that you're speaking about. You have any suggestions? I know Jason just put something in the chat window, you guys, for who you were joining us on Zoom. There is for most of you might know about a field called cymatics, which is part of what Victor's alluding to, and Jason's just put in the chat window a link to some of the cymatics work. Any other
Sure.
recommendations you have for people who want to learn more about these connections with math and music?
Sure. Just go online and put in math and music. It's
Yeah,
as simple as that. Everybody's talking about everything these days.
they
But you
are.
can also look up scientific tuning, as well as cymatics. I love cymatics because cymatics allows you to see the shapes that music makes. Like they'll put a bunch of sand on a metal plate, just sand or salt, but then they aim a speaker at it and play a pitch, and you immediately see the sand form shapes,
Hmm.
right? So, because of gravity, those shapes that we see are flat. Without gravity, they make spheres, right? In liquid, gravity takes less of effect. So they make shapes in liquid. You can find that on YouTube. Our body's mostly liquid, which is why music can affect us in a certain way. We think we're just hearing it. No, that music is hitting our whole body. And it's a powerful thing that we do. It's more powerful than we realize. We're not just playing a song. My brother Roy likes to say it's like Morpheus in the Matrix when he said to Neo, "Oh, you think that's air you're breathing?" Hmm. My brother Roy likes to say, "Oh, you think that's just music you're playing?" Hmm.
I love that. Yeah, well, back to music is vibration. And as you know, Victor, I mean, you're friends with Eileen McCusick, who's a friend of mine, and we've been doing research with her. And we just did a feasibility study looking at her distant tuning approach, right? Using tuning forks to feel the field in a person and work with removing blocks when they're there. I mean, we're going to be publishing that study pretty soon. It's just an initial feasibility study. But we did this with people who had significant anxiety during COVID time. A lot of us are isolated. We don't have our friends network. We don't have our support systems. And so we just looked at what happens if people get three tunings, kind of bringing them back into coherence vibrationally using Eileen's method. What happens if they just have 3 sessions a week? And what I can tell you is that the drops in anxiety were profound. They were actually clinically significant, meaning they dropped to levels of anxiety that are not diagnosable as anxiety anymore. And so, this
Yes.
power that we have. So, we have a bunch of questions. We have a bunch of questions on your book, and I want to honor everybody. Thank you so much for your questions because they're amazing. The
If I could say this, Shamini, now Eileen McCusick, she's crazy in the best sense of the word of what I like when I say crazy. She is, if the box is here, she's over here. She is way out of the box. Now you're talking about, she gives people tunings and stuff. Unless we know what you're talking about, which I do, people aren't getting it.
Yeah.
This woman, Eileen, I urge people to get her new book. I think it's Electric Body. Is that what
Yes,
it is?
Electric Body, Electric Health just came out a few weeks before yours, and
Yes.
I think our community at the Consciousness and Healing Initiative is pretty aware of Eileen because we've had her on quite
Good.
a bit. But for those of you who are just joining Chi, this is the work that we do. Is like you said, people don't get it, and that's part of the work of our nonprofit is to help people understand this area that we call the biofield, the fields of energy and information that connect us and heal us, and that's very
Right.
much what Eileen and your work is about, right? Is
And she uses a tuning fork.
yeah.
From wherever she is, she'll hit a tuning fork, and that tuning fork tells her what's going on in your biofield, your invisible body. Amazing. And I'm so happy that you all are actually, for lack of a better word, scientifically studying this.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's
So real
exactly the right word. It is science. There's no reason why
yes,
science can't study the sacred, the spiritual, and the energetic. Absolutely.
exactly. So very soon we can't just call it hocus pocus anymore. Science is going to be able to say no. This is real. And really science is just in many cases is proving what we already know anyway.
Mhm.
Lots of studies they're doing on music and things like that. And those us musicians, we already know that.
Yeah.
But it's nice to get science on board. And so I'm happy that you are involved with Eileen to help uh get science on board
Well,
with
yeah.
what she's doing.
To tell the story because wouldn't it be nice if we went into the doctor's office and part of our prescription was a musical prescription, right? That we would go in and they would say, okay, here's where you're in phase, here's where you're out of phase, here's where you're in coherence. Here's some really easy things you can do to tune yourself, right? So
Sure.
there's no reason why we can't evolve our systems of healing to be like that. We're actually going back to the old ways, as you know, the ways that have been around for thousands of years where people used music and sound as medicine in all these ways. So there's no reason for us to think it's just entertainment. It's deep,
Yeah.
it's powerful, and so we're very yeah, we feel very privileged at the Consciousness and Healing Initiative to be sharing some of this work and conducting what's really fun and meaningful research on vibration. Um,
Yeah.
we have some questions about you.
Okay.
We have
Ask me anything.
we have several questions, and youth comes up a lot, especially these days, as you can imagine. Changing landscapes for everyone, and we, as usual, want to empower our youth. Um, and so I'll just ask Jenny's question outright. Jenny
Mhm.
says, "How can we help our youth with experience creating, making, and actively experiencing music when so many music programs are being cut or stretched too thin? What can we do as a society because kids aren't learning enough music in schools?"
Okay. I know some friends of mine who asked a Native American elder the same question about nature. Right. These are my nature connection friends who learn how to live off the land. They asked the identical question to a native elder who has since passed away. How do we get kids back outside? They're just in on computers and they want to text. And his answer was simple. He said to the elders, to the parents, he said, just go outside and have more fun outside than they're having inside. They'll come out.
I love
Right? Kids are mirrors. Or no, we're mirrors for kids. They'll do what we do. So if you want your kid to be musical, then you be musical. It really is that simple. When I was in kindergarten and first grade, my parents took us to concerts. I got to see James Brown in 1970 and 71. Best concerts I've ever seen. The best performer.
uh,
Of course, still inspired by that. We just have to expose the kids, give them opportunity, right? In many cases, we give kids opportunities to do the wrong thing,
mhm,
to do the things that aren't beneficial to their upbringing, right? What are the TV shows that we're allowing them to watch? What are the, no, better yet, what are the TV shows that we're watching?
mhm,
We're sitting at home watching these reality shows that have very little to do with reality. We're sitting here watching these whatever movies, expecting the kids to be different than us,
mhm.
right? The kids didn't invent Fortnite and all these games,
Yeah,
right? We did.
yeah.
So if we're better, they will be better. We
And
can't
they
expect them to do it on their own.
and they will learn from example. I mean, speaking as a parent, and Victor, my husband's a musician as well. One thing that we've learned with our kids who are, kind of preteen and teenage is, we foster ways for them to learn, but we don't push them because, they've got to come to it to some degree on their own. And then, we want to create and help them create structure and, and honor the practice and things like that. But it is really nice when you don't push and your kid comes to you and it's like, I want to take some singing lessons. I want to just practice a song with you or something. And you do it together. And it's because they see you singing around the house or just
Sure.
enjoying yourself. And
Right.
I want to raise a question that someone has that I think is really relevant to this conversation for people who are in their adult life and just beginning a deeper relationship with music. They may have doubts or concerns about how they do that. So that this person is asking, and several people have upvoted this, which means they have the same question, which is, let's say, I'm an adult and I wasn't exposed to music when I was young. And, is it too late for me? I'm not a kid anymore. How do I go about learning how to play an instrument as an adult or deepening
Sure.
my relationship?
Yeah. You have to think about, what is music about? Is music really about scales and theory and chords and modes? No, music's about telling stories. Our favorite songs tell the best stories. They're not the most complicated songs. Is Willie Nelson really the best guitarist? Is Bob Dylan really the best vocalist? Right? You're laughing because you know he's not.
I'm just laughing thinking about the first time my husband heard Bob Dylan. He had a really good
Exactly.
time. Yeah.
Exactly. How many chords and scales, how much theory did B.B. King know? I question if he knew any, but they are real, right? This whole quest, it doesn't matter what you're learning. Even Bruce Lee said martial art is a journey to the self. It's a discovery of self. What you're trying to do is make yourself better so that you can express it through your music. So the people that are older, they have the best part of what music is really about, a life story, right? You've had your car broken into, you've fallen in and out of love, you have all these stories to tell. All you need to do is hit one chord. To all the girls I loved before. That's all it takes. That's all Willie Nelson has to do to stop you in your tracks. And you feel his realness. You know that he's not making this up. He's not bombarded by theory, by technique. He's just relating a story. So when you have something to say, the means of how you say it doesn't have to be that good. In other words, I don't have to be the best guitarist. The story needs to be good. So if anybody wants to learn to play piano or guitar or bass, just learn a few chords. Just learn just a little and then tell that story. That's what Willie Nelson does.
I love it, Victor. You're just reminding us to be in our authenticity and, and our flow and just connect with our essence and share that. I mean, it's a core theme that I hear you saying throughout this hour is, we focus so much on technique and timing and education and kind of learning on the outside, all of those structures, which can be helpful to a degree. But as you say, sometimes actually they get in the way. It kind of relates to this question that somebody has, which is kind of a technical question. And I dare say I have a feeling I know how you're going to answer it. So this particular person says, he or she's really wondering, when you transcribe a solo, how long do you usually have to play it before it becomes part of your language? And how do you recognize the moment when that happens?
It kind of depends on if I want it to be a part of my language or not. In other words, my one of my favorite speakers is Dr. Martin Luther King, right? I may just want to read that speech once a year. Doesn't mean I'm going to walk around saying, I had a dream today. You know, I may not want it to become a part of my language, but I want to be able to have access to it or be able to read it, right? So it depends on what I'm doing when I'm learning this piece. But because in many cases, depending on the piece that I'm transcribing, and when they mean transcribe, means that I'm learning it. It doesn't always mean I'm writing it down, even though that's a good thing to do because then you learn it in a new way, different way. Just because it takes time to learn something on an instrument, it's going to, by osmosis, find its way into what you do just by the sheer repetition of having to do it. When I read Dr. Martin Luther King's speech, I can read it right the first time, what we call sight reading, right? I can do it the first time. So once I read it the first, I can put it away. So it's not really a part of my vocabulary yet because that's not really my intention for me to start saying what he said, right? But I can be influenced by it and let the meaning of what he said influence my life. Music for me is the same way. So sometimes I'll be learning or transcribing a piece of music and I don't put time into it because if I say, oh, this is going to take 2 weeks, then it might take 2 weeks when I could have learned it in 2 days. I just learn it for the enjoyment of it, and I don't put time on it. The same with healing. I hate it when a doctor says, this is going to take you 3 months. Why you put that in my head? Just
Yeah.
say you'll get better when you get better. But music's the same way. If I repeat something over and over, then it becomes a part of my repertoire. And in many cases, I'm not repeating the whole solo that I transcribed. I'm repeating a piece of it.
A theme,
Yeah,
yeah, a theme or even the essence of it. It makes great sense.
exactly. Exactly.
Victor Florian has a question, and I have some reflections on this too. But she's asking you. She's saying, "I'm a musician, and I love your first book, and I've seen you once playing in Paris. I play the guitar, bass, and drums with confidence, but when it comes to singing, it is very hard for me to express truly and freely. Do you have some advice for singing, even though it's not your necessarily the thing that you do the most?"
Right. Um, Tell a story. Don't worry about what your voice sounds like. Pay more attention to the story that you're telling and make it a story that people need to hear. Right. Again, I bring up Bob Dylan. Can you imagine Bob Dylan on America's Got Talent or The Voice? You know, he doesn't care what you think about his voice.
We could do better. We could have some Bob
Yeah.
Dylan's on The Voice. It would be pretty amazing, actually, because
It would
he's
be
got his
very amazing, but
storytelling.
they'd have to be as real as Bob Dylan.
Yep.
We
Yep.
don't want a singer trying to sound like Bob Dylan.
Mhm.
And what we have a lot of times on these shows are singers trying to sound like their heroes.
Mhm.
But Bob Dylan's not trying to sound like anyone. He's not even trying to sound like himself. He just sounds like himself. So in many cases, I bet when Florian sings at home, that same nervousness is probably not there. Probably not. That same holding back is because there's no one to laugh at that voice. But if you take the attention away from what your voice sounds like and put your energy into the story that you're telling with that voice, guaranteed people will listen.
I'll just add to this as a singer and someone who helps folks empower their own voice, whether it's for singing, speaking, or just feeling comfortable with the voice. That it's a very intimate thing because it's your body, right? And so singing is a beautiful way of reconnecting with your body as well as your soul. And so it's a really intimate thing to share with people, and so I want to honor that. Even for musicians who are really well versed when you're singing, and I know many amazing musicians who just are afraid to open their mouth to even do backup vocals because it's a vulnerable thing to do. It's a new level of vulnerability for some people, right? So there are even kind of bioenergetic practices that you can do where you feel really grounded with the earth, so you're not feeding off of an anxiety signal in the body that can really help, because when you're grounded like that in your body, then it's just easier for the sound to move in freely through the body the way it wants. Because here, of course, for all musicians, I'm sure your body really is your instrument, and the instrument is an extension of that. But for singing, most certainly. So staying in good posture and just allowing the music to come through you, as Victor says, you're telling the story, it's just coming through you. um, just allow it to come through. And such wisdom too.
I
Thank
like
you
that.
for saying
You know,
that. We don't need to sound like anybody else. So just put that ear,
right.
whatever that standard is that you have of what you think you're supposed to sound like as a singer or a musician. Let it go.
And I'll add one last thing is that we're rarely, if ever, ashamed of our voice when we talk, right? So I don't like my singing voice. I don't like it, but I don't let it stop me from singing because I like singing. But I do write a lot of songs for myself that are in between singing and talking, right? So I have a song that I wrote called My Life, and I felt it was a message people needed to hear. You know, it's my life. I can do anything I want to do. You know, I can be this, I can be that, you know. And then I ask everybody say it with me one time. It's my life. But when I sing it, it's way down here. I'm going to buy me a pickle, eat it all by myself, get me a jar of mayonnaise. You know, it's in this talking phrase. Is it kind of, am I singing? Am I talking? And I feel very comfortable there. It's not like I'm trying to be Donny Hathaway, Stevie Wonder, Whitney Houston. It's just me talking, but halfway singing. So you can do that also. And then it might help you get to the place to where I'm willing to go out a little further.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. I can't believe we're running short of the hour. I'm going to take one more question that I know other folks have, if that's okay with you, Victor.
We
I
have
think
all day,
we could
Shamini.
spend with you. Yeah, I was going to say, I think we could stay with you for a long time. And, maybe I hope we'll have the opportunities to connect again, and share some of your wisdom. But so many questions about your book. And here's one that Patrick asks, which I bet a lot of people want to know, which is, does Michael exist in your quote real life? And then he also wants to know, from the spirit of music, are you kind of suggesting that it's the music critics or the music execs that are phasers in the world today?
Well, starting with the second question, phasers show up in a bunch of aspects of life. Um, there's one scene in the book where phasers actually show up at the narrator, which is my character's house, and they're offering, I think it's like 30 songs for a penny. You know, so imagine if you write a song and you don't own it anymore. A record label owns it, and then they're selling it for a penny or a
Hmm.
30th of a penny, and you're not getting any money of it. That's a phaser too, right? And in many cases, the critics aren't always negative. For me, the critics, positive or negative, allow me to see how the public sees me. In a sense, not in a sense, in reality, I don't have a career in music without people. I need to know how the people see me to help manage my career, right? I'm a musician without you. I don't have a career as a musician without you. So for me, I love critics because I know that the critics are only telling me about them anyway. If a critic doesn't like my record, it doesn't mean my record's not bad. I mean, it doesn't mean my record is bad. It's like the critic saying I don't like tomatoes. That's the critic's taste. Doesn't mean tomatoes are bad. So I look at it like that, but I want to know. So I look at all the compliments and I put them in the same hat or the same box with all the criticism. It's just someone's opinion, but I want to know that. So I think it's okay. But I like critics that are honest, not just trying to hurt or just trying to build you up. I like honest that will tell you the way DJs used to be in the 60s and 70s. They would play the music that lit their fire.
Yes.
They weren't being, forced to just play this song because I love that. So I like critics that still have that old school. I'm going to tell you what I think, whether I like what they said or not. I love that honesty. I forgot what the first question was.
Michael, tell us about
Oh,
Michael.
Michael. Yeah, in the spirit of music, the final chapter, the final measure of the spirit of music is a chapter called Who is Michael? And it's in Michael's voice. And basically, Michael says, "Why you were?" The sense of it is Michael' main thought is that instead of trying to figure out whether I'm real, you need to be figuring out whether you are real. That's what's more important in your life, should be. But here's the thing: whoever asked the question, and I get this, the main question I get about the book. Even if I said the whole book happened exactly as written, even if I said that and I owned it and I know it's true, it's true. The truth of the matter is you weren't there. So for you, it's just a story. So just treat it as a story. And I say that treat the story as false, fiction, but the lessons are real. But truth, and you'll read this if you read the Spirit of Music, you'll read it from Michael over and over. Michael always says, truth is up to you. It's your decision. Because if I said, hey, it really happened, everything, and if we're close friends and you believe me, you'll believe it. Oh, wow, it ever happened. But then if I said, I'm kidding, it didn't happen, then you change your mind. Oh, okay, it didn't. It's always up to you,
Mhm.
right? So whether it happened or not doesn't matter. It's what do you get from it? How does it affect you? Because even if it really happened, by the time it reaches your ears, it's just a story. So I say treat it as a story, and that takes some of the pressure off so
Mhm.
that you can get to the meaning of the story rather than judgment. That's the problem with the Bible. We fight over whether it's real or not. And many of us are missing what it's teaching because we're stuck at is it real? Screw that. Who cares? I wasn't there.
Right.
What is it teaching me? What does it mean to me? That's what's important.
Oh, thank you for that. That so well said. We're always looking for what's true and factual, and we're forgetting to look for the truth inside ourselves. And the truth is very much connected to how we feel and see and experience.
Shamini, can I give you a musical example of that?
Would love that. Yeah, would love that. Oh my gosh, thank you.
This is from this is better shown on piano, but I don't play piano well and I don't have one. But let me see. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, so if I play a C and I play a C sharp, right? If I play them together, we would probably say it doesn't quite sound that good. Okay. Now, if we stopped there, we would put in our music books C and C sharp played together, sound horrible, right? Okay. But let's say I play the C sharp and put the C up an octave. Here's the C sharp, put the C up an octave. Okay. Now it's beautiful. But wait a minute, the book said C and C sharp don't sound good. As my brother would say, if someone just takes the high road, we might find the beauty in it. So we can't say C and C sharp don't work. We can't say that one truth is always true. And it's the same with every truth. But even if I take the C and put the C in C sharp, even now, listen, now they start to sound better, don't they?
Frame of
Because we
reference.
were able to see its real beauty.
Mhm.
Now, when we come back here, now if I put another note with it, ooh, really beautiful. See if I can.
Mm.
Whoa. So maybe it doesn't sound good, but maybe there's just not enough information. Or maybe we need to see this thing in a different octave.
I love
Or
that.
maybe just one of us should just take the high road. Or it's like to quote my brother Joseph, if I cough and then I drop my notebook, right? Those things don't relate. But if I add rhythm, all of a sudden, now we get it. So my brother Joseph teaches that in music, rhythm can make things that don't relate. In life, it's respect. In life, respect can make things that don't relate. We don't have to have voted to the same for the same people. We don't have to pray to the same God. Our skin color doesn't have to be the same. We don't have to ever agree. But if we respect each other, we can still go to lunch.
Mm.
All
Oh,
right.
thank you. Thank you so much. You just took us all the way there with how these principles relate to harmonizing a world, which of course some people had questions about too. We didn't get a chance to get it, but you just gave us a clear example of.
Shamini, I just lost your voice. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. Can you hear me? No? Huh. That's
I
interesting.
don't know. Oh, I don't know if I lost. or I don't know if other people can still hear you.
Well, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I got you back now. Okay.
Sorry, yeah, I don't know
I
what.
got your back. I want you back. Yeah.
I was just saying that thank you because you just brought it, full broad circle for us again. How do these principles relate to harmonizing with the world? And some people had questions about that. How do we apply this to, the kind of polarities and the dissonance that we are experiencing in the world? And you just gave us some clear examples through this really beautiful, simple musical exercise of, taking the high road, looking at it in a different way, another octave, looking for the missing notes, looking, so you can
Respect.
apply this. Yes, all through that lens
Respect.
of respect. Yeah,
Yes.
everything has
Don't
a place.
you don't have to agree.
Hmm.
That's the key. We don't have to agree. But I still want to understand and appreciate you for who you are. We're humans, right? And there can be a danger in the thinking you're right.
Yes.
There really can be a danger in that. So just show respect, honest respect, and understand where the other person's coming from. You don't have to agree, right? But it is not my job to force you to be like me. So I respect your view, even though we disagree. Let's go to dinner. Let's go to lunch.
Mm. I love it. It's beautiful. Victor, thank you so much for spending time with us and being so generous with answering questions. We're getting a lot of love here, people sending out their love to you, through the chat, and lots of gratitude. And wow, so much wisdom that you've shared, so much more to explore. I want to just remind everybody, if you have not picked up Victor's new book, The Spirit of Music, please do so. It's available on his website, which I think was in the chat window, as well as, of course, on Amazon. And if you haven't read the music lesson, I would recommend you pick that one up too. And Victor, how else can people be in touch with you, learn more about you? You do camps, you do all kinds of really great things.
Sure. The first way would be my website, victorwooten.com, because everything kind of branches out from there. My schedule's always there. If you want to know about my camps, you can get to them there.
Great.
Right. And of course, this year, like last year, our camps will be online. We will be posting a 2021 schedule soon. One of the things that I plan on doing this year is to do a camp for Europe, which will be on a Europe time zone. So I'll get up early in the morning and make it comfortable for them. It'll be a weekend camp. I'm still trying to decide if it's going to be multiple instruments or just bass. I don't know yet.
Mm.
But people can find out about that on my website. But I'm also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and I try my best to answer my messages there. So you can always find me. And I'm one that does my best to answer every question.
That's great. And for those of you who, are new to us and diving into your own healing and the power of vibration, we want to invite you to join our group at the Consciousness and Healing Initiative. As I mentioned, we're a nonprofit collaborative accelerator. We have the privilege of meeting with leading luminaries in healing from all different perspectives, such as Victor, many others. You can join us. I think Jason's just put a little note in the chat to let you know what's available to you as a Chi contributor. You'll have access, of course, to Victor's AMA here and many, many more 50 plus conversations and teachings from luminary healers like yourself, Victor. Thank you so much for being with
Thank
us.
you.
I look forward.
And Shamini, I know I also want to urge people. I know your people are already here, but I see a lot of my friends out there too who may or may not know a lot about you or McCusick, Eileen, who we talked about. So I'm urging my friends. I see you out there, Simon and Virgil. The people that may not know about you, go and watch your TED talk, and look at your books that are out and coming out, and Electric Body,
Yes.
because this is going in a whole related way, but a different direction than I've gone with my people. I hate to even say that, but then we can all get together when we do maybe the next version of my Spirit of Music camp. We
Yes.
can bring you all in, and
Yes.
the people who come to my camps will have had a head start into what you're talking about. So I want to make sure that you're not out there just looking at my stuff, but Shamini's got amazing
Mm.
information and a wonderful voice.
Thank you.
And Eileen McCusick, wow, that's some out there stuff.
Yeah. I'm seeing her
Yeah,
tomorrow, actually. She's spending the weekend with me for so we'll have to call you up, and when COVID lifts,
please do.
we can all get together, and that's gonna be really fun, and yeah, and thank
Yeah.
you for that shout out, from the Consciousness and Healing Initiative, as I said, it's critical to all of us that we are expanding the conversation and learning from each other, so we're really pleased to share with y'all what we've learned about vibration, and the same, we really invite you to be part of our community so you can teach us about what you're learning
Mhm.
about vibration as a musician and as a person who's very connected with music. I know you are connected with music because you're here today with us right now. And I want to thank you all for being here with us. And my gosh, thank you so much, Victor. And can't wait
Thank
for you
you.
next time. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you for having me here.
Thank you.
Thank you.